This course, there are literally going to be thousands of different body weight exercises that you can perform. I have the exercise manuals right here. All of these right over here, those are just pure exercises. So there is going to be a lot of different exercises that you are going to be able to give to all of your different clients and patients. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team for Work, and today I've got another course review for you guys. And today I'm going to be reviewing the Segmental Strengthening and Analytical Reinforcement series of courses from Voyer of the SomaTraining Institute. I absolutely love these courses. In my 18 years as a coach, these have by far been one of the best 18 courses that I have taken in my life. And with regard to these courses, there are 4 separate courses in the entire program, and I'm going to be lumping them all into this one video because I don't want to do a separate video for each one of the individual courses because they're all terrific. Now, with regard to the courses, there is an abdominal and thoracic diaphragm course, there is a lower limbs course, there is an upper limbs and trunk course, and there's going to be a transverse abdominis course. All of them are going to be phenomenal, and in terms of who could benefit from it, if you are a manual therapist, if you're a physiotherapist, if you're a strength coach, a personal trainer, if you do online coaching, these are going to be terrific, especially if you're an online coach. If you're an online coach, then these are great because a lot of the exercises, most of them, over 90% are going to be body weight exercises. So if you are working with people that don't have any equipment available, you're going to be able to perform all of these exercises, and there are thousands of different exercises that you're going to have at your disposal. Now, in terms of who's not really going to be able to benefit from it, if you are somebody with a very limited knowledge of anatomy, I wouldn't recommend that you would take this course because it can be quite overwhelming. I would recommend that you learn a little bit more about anatomy and brush up on that first. And I reviewed a book last week, The Muscular System Manual from Joseph Muscolino. If you didn't watch that video, you could check it out right over here. But if your anatomy knowledge is lacking, I would highly encourage you to pick up that book before you end up taking this course. And if you do end up taking the course, there are these books that come with it. There's for every single book, you're going to get an anatomy book, and there's also going to be manuals for the exercises. So you get 2 manuals every time you take one of the courses. So there is going to be a lot of information that you will be able to learn, but it's still going to be quite overwhelming. I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have proper anatomy knowledge. And then in terms of who else won't be able to benefit from it, if you are the type of person where you don't really do a lot of physiotherapy or you don't work with a lot of people who are injured, let's say you work predominantly with bodybuilders or you work with people who are more interested in fat loss, then this is really going to only be beneficial if you are working with those types of clientele that also happen to have injuries, and it would be more like warm-up type exercises just to help repair their body. But if you are interested in more bodybuilding type work or bodybuilding type courses or courses for fat loss, I would recommend the PICP program through Poliquin Group, and I reviewed that course a few weeks ago. If you missed it, I'll include a link right up over here. Now we're going to get into the pros and cons of the course, but first, real quick, like the video and comment down in the comment section. It would really help me out and help it with the algorithm. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the content. Now, let's get into the pros and cons. The number one pro is that this course, there are literally going to be thousands of different body weight exercises that you can perform. I have the exercise manuals right here. All of these right over here, those are just pure exercises. So there is going to be a lot of different exercises that you are going to be able to give to all of your different clients and patients. And for one example, just the adductor group alone, for all of the different adductor muscles, there are over 70 different exercises, and they're all body weight exercises that you can perform just to strengthen the adductor group. So for that alone, great course. Now, in terms of the actual execution, the reason there are so many different exercises is because when you take these courses, you are going to be taught how to train various different fiber types. We can train let's say for example, you want to train the adductor group. You can train the superficial fibers or you can train the deep fibers. Let's say you're training a muscle like the quadricep group. You could train the proximal fibers, the intermediate fibers, the distal fibers. If you're training a muscle like the gluteus medius, you could end up training the anterior fibers, the intermediate fibers, the posterior fibers. If you're training a muscle such as the deltoid, you can train the medial fibers, the middle fibers, the lateral fibers. So there's going to be a lot of different variations and a lot of minor modifications that you can do in order to get all of these different muscles and train very, very specific fibers, which is going to be terrific if you are dealing a lot with rehab patients. For me, myself, I do a lot of physiotherapy, and in my physiotherapy clinic, of all the courses that I've taken in my 18 years, this is the stuff that I use the most with my patients, and it's been the course that has given me the best results in those 18 years. So I would highly encourage you to take it if you're a physiotherapist or if you just do a lot of rehabilitation with a lot of patients. Now, another thing is, aside from learning how to train the different fiber types, you're also going to learn how to train different ranges of motion. We basically have 5 different ranges of motion. We have internal range. Internal range, this is going to be full flexion and partial extension. So let's say we're doing a bicep curl. Internal range would be this. We're fully flexing the muscle, but we're not going fully into extension. Then we would have middle range. Middle range is going to be partial flexion and partial extension. So if you're thinking about an Arnold 21 exercise, it would be that portion of the exercise where you're going in that middle section. And then finally, we are going to have external range. External range, you are going into partial flexion and total extension. So it would be full extension of the elbow into partial flexion. And then aside from internal, middle, and external range, we also have full range or total range. Total range, it's full extension to full flexion. You are targeting the entire muscle. And then we have extreme range. Extreme range, this is when you get into maximal elongation. So this goes beyond the point of full extension. For somebody who is hypermobile, if they're able to hyperextend their elbow, then extreme range would be going past the point of 0 degrees. So this is a range that you very, very rarely use. I've never personally used it with any of my patients, but it is one of the ranges that you can utilize. And with regard to internal, middle, and external range, they're going to emphasize different parts of the muscle. So when you are predominantly working in internal range, you're going to be working a higher proportion of the muscle belly relative to the tendon. When you're working in middle range, it's going to be about 50-50. When you're working in external range, you are going to be working a higher proportion of the tendon relative to the muscle belly. So depending on what exactly is wrong with your patient, it's going to dictate whether you want to work in internal range, middle range, external range, total range, or extreme range. Then, once we've got on to the different ranges of motion, now it's going to get into the actual exercises themselves. With regard to the actual exercises, again, there are thousands of exercises. If you are interested, I have a playlist right up over here. There are about 326 exercises at the time of filming this video. So if you are interested in brushing up a few of your exercises, you can check out that video. But first thing when we get to the exercises is going to be the exercise basics. For the exercise basics, we're going to get into positioning of the different exercise. So let's take the gluteus medius muscle, for example. With regard to the gluteus medius, what you want to do is you're going to get into a sideline position because the gluteus medius is on the side of your body. So you want it facing against gravity. So you're in a sideline position, you want to flex your bottom hip to 90 degrees, and then with your hand, you're going to hold on to your knee. The reason we do that is because we want to maintain retroversion of the pelvis to get more myofascial tension on the gluteus medius. Then, from there, we want to maintain a slight bend in the top leg or the leg that we are working. And the reason that we're maintaining a slight bend is because we want to release some of the tension on the tensor fasciae lati muscle to get maximum recruitment of the gluteus medius muscle. And if you guys need a little bit of help with what exactly I'm describing, if you can't really visualize it, I'm going to include a link right up over here to a gluteus medius exercise. It's the exercise that I'm describing right now, so it'll give you an idea of how exactly you position your body. But once we've got the positioning down, the next thing that we want to take a look at is the actual exercise principles. This is going to be the execution of the exercise. With regard to the execution, the gluteus medius, one of its actions is going to be hip abduction. So for the principle of action for this specific exercise, abduction is going to be the principle of action. So that's what we're going to be doing. In a sideline position, we're going to an abduction. Then, remember how I mentioned we could train different fibers. We could train the anterior fibers, the intermediate fibers, the posterior fibers. Depending on the level of flexion that we play with in the hips, that's going to dictate which fibers we are going to be emphasizing the most. Let's say that we want to target the anterior fibers of the gluteus medius muscle. We're still going to be doing hip abduction, but we're going to want our hip in extension, so it's going to be 0 degrees. If we're doing 0 degrees, then we're going to bringing our leg out to the side, and then we're going to target the anterior fibers of the gluteus medius muscle or the fibers closer to the front. Let's say we want to target the intermediate fibers. If we want to target the intermediate fibers, then we're going to flex our hip to 45 degrees and we're still going to go into abduction. And then if we want to target the posterior fibers, we're going to flex our hip to 90 degrees and we're going to just go into hip abduction at 90 degrees. The reason that it works this way is because when we are in extension, we place more myofascial tension on the anterior aspect. So because there's more myofascial tension on the anterior aspect of the gluteus medius, then we're going to be emphasizing those fibers a little bit more. If we want to target the posterior fibers, when we go into flexion of 90 degrees, now there's more myofascial tension on the gluteus medius on the posterior fibers. So because we have more tension on the posterior fibers, we are going to be emphasizing the posterior fibers. And the reason that I'm using the deltoid is because the gluteus medius is essentially the deltoid of the hip. We have the tensor fasciae lati, which is basically the anterior deltoid. The gluteus medius is essentially going to be the middle deltoid. And then the glute max, you could consider that your posterior deltoid. So those three muscles are essentially the deltoid of the hip. Now, once we've done that, we can also target different fibers in terms of superficial and deep. Let's say we want to target the superficial fibers of the gluteus medius. What we would do is go into pseudo-inversion. Pseudo-inversion, that means we are doing a combination of dorsiflexion of the ankle and inversion of the ankle. When we go into dorsiflexion and inversion, we are going to be placing a lot more myofascial tension on the superficial fibers of the muscle. So because we place more tension on the superficial muscle, then we're going to be targeting more the superficial fibers. And then if we want to target more the deep muscle, then what we're going to do is we're going to keep our ankle relaxed. So by keeping it relaxed, you create less myofascial tension, and because there's less myofascial tension, we can get deeper into the muscle. So those are just a few of the different ways that we can manipulate body positioning and positioning of the different areas in order to emphasize different muscle fibers and different superficial or deep muscles of the muscle that we are targeting. So again, if you are interested in either physiotherapy, rehabilitation, if you're a strength coach that works with a lot of high performance athletes, I would highly encourage you to take the Segmental Strengthening and Analytical Reinforcement course from Voyer from the SomaTraining Institute. If you guys have any questions at all, go ahead and ask your questions down in the comment section so I can help you guys out. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I'm going to be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.